Listening to the Pewtercast.
Welcome to the Pewtercast. I am Brent Allen, your host, safe from all things virusy, at least for right now. Who knows what's going to happen? We got a thing on, but I am joined by my good friend, Ren Daxt. He's sitting right that direction over there. Ren, how's it going, my friend?
It's good. It's good. I think I'm healthy. I don't know. I could have it. Who knows?
We'll see. 2 to 14 days, I hear, is the incubation period.
Apparently, only basketball players and Tom Hanks can get a
test.
Get a test.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Who knows?
Who knows? So, well, listen, Ren, I don't know about you, but the whole world is shut down. We started with a time change this week, went into a full moon. Now it's Friday the 13th, and we have a global pandemic on, and everything is shut down, including all our Pee-wee sports. Like, we know professional sports, those things are all gone, but the Pee-wee sports are gone too. So I find myself in a spot where I don't have anything to do for a while, along with most people. And so let's do our part to try to contribute to at least some entertainment so people can help feel a little natural. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it. You had a weird thing going on anyway.
I did.
mean, there has to be some of like a small part of you that's sort of relieved that, not that there's a pandemic, but that you don't have to do this anymore.
Yeah, well, it's I don't have to do it for now. The season runs till May. Yeah, what Ren's talking about is my son's baseball team. I volunteered to be his head baseball coach this year. I've never really wanted to do that, but it just happened because nobody else was stepping up to do it. And it turns out I wound up coaching 2 teams at the exact same time, and it's trying to shuffle a couple of kids back and forth so we fill out both rosters when we play other parks, and just it's been crazy. And yeah, I'm kind of okay a little bit.
So basically what they did is you had one giant team.
Yeah.
And you didn't have enough, but be able to get those guys to play every game.
Right.
Like, people were gonna like to play for 5 minutes and then sit.
Right. And they might maybe get one at bat a game.
Right.
Right.
So what the league decided to do was to split it into 2 teams and then have floating players.
A couple of floating players,
back and forth.
Yeah.
Fun.
Right. Instead of like a little league baseball season's like 12 games, like Parks and Rec type of, it's about 12 games. I have 27 scheduled between now and May, between the 2 teams and everything else going on. So yeah, it's it was a lot. So I am a little bit glad for the reprieve. You are definitely right about that. So and I guess that I mean, you know, to anyone out there who's being affected by the current global pandemic, sorry, and thoughts are with you. But for everybody else, wash your hands, don't touch your face, and be safe. And let's try to distract people from that for a while, Ren. While we get here, we talk about our favorite team, our Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It feels like the last couple of weeks, like I'd look up and kind of I felt like a gopher poking my head out of the hole, or like one of those little things going, has anything happened?
Yeah.
Nope. All right.
Yeah.
Has anything happened? Nope. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Like a meerkat.
Yeah, that's it. A meerkat. Exactly.
Going about your business and stand up on your hind legs, look around. Like,
right.
Okay. Are we talking about anything besides Jameis? No? Okay.
All right. Done. We declared a moratorium on all Jameis Winston contract talk back in November while the season was still on. And we've kind of kept that through. Now, we may talk a little bit about that. Free agency is upon us, I think, on Monday or something like that. So what we're going to do tonight, though, we've got a good friend of the show, Mark Cook. We're going to call him up here in just a minute. We're going to catch up with him, find out what's going on in Tampa, if he can give us any insight into anything that might actually be happening. So we'll talk to Mark. But then after that, Ren, special treat for the folks out there. We're going to do a mock draft.
Mm-hmm.
And that may not sound like a lot to a lot of people out there, but it's kind of special, I guess, happening here at the Pewtercast because I notoriously hate mock drafts.
Yes.
I just do. So, but
Brent is not a mock draft season or draft season type of football fan.
Right. Well, and we'll get into all of that later, but I mean, there's just so much that could possibly be. So that being said, and by the way, I don't watch a lot of college football, so I don't know these guys very well either. So this is kind of going to be a little bit my personal primer as we look towards the draft, as we look towards free agents and all that kind of stuff. But Ren, you're going to help me with that and kind of help guide me through this process. We're going to pull up the TDN mock draft machine and all of that. So that's what we've got coming up on today's show here at the Pewtercast, Ren. But first things first, why don't we go ahead and get our friend Mark on the line here, and we'll see if we can't figure out anything that is happening going on down there in Tampa Bay.
I'm going to vote no.
Let's hear Mark Cook. Where is it? There he is. Let's see what we got here. Give him a call. Call him. It's great radio. Yeah, there it goes. You can hear the ringing, right, Ren?
I can.
Yeah, good. Hopefully,
we're safe.
Good. Hopefully everyone out there in Twitter land can also hear it as well. So, hello, Mark.
Yo, give me 1 second.
Okay.
Sorry.
No problem.
I'm sorry, I know you're live. My bad.
You're good, man.
I was
Don't
not
tell
the
us.
bathroom thing. I was just counting something that I had, making sure I had enough of it.
Mhm.
Anyway, not weighing and counting. There's a difference.
Oh, okay.
Are they are they sheets of toilet paper?
Yeah, no, I got. We're good on that. I mean,
ounces of
unless
hand
some,
sanitizer.
mystery stomach virus hits me, we're good. None. Well, I've got a little one in my car, and I've got one in my fishing bag, my tackle bag, but not enough of that. But actually, I do have hand sanitizer. It's called soap and water.
There
So
you
I'm
go.
good on that too.
There you go.
The end. Thanks for the call, Mark. Appreciate it.
All right, first time, long time. I'll hang up and listen.
There you go. No, it's I mean, funny, Mark, you know, we actually had planned on getting John Ledyard here to come on the show, but when we called him up for some reason, I don't know why, he said he wasn't allowed to come on the Pewtercast. So you know, we go to our standby. Yeah.
Well, if you get John Legend on, that would be fine. But John Ledyard, no, he's not allowed on the show.
Yeah. You wouldn't happen to know anything about that, would you there, Mark?
No, it's odd, but yeah, no, I'm not sure. As I'm sitting here polishing my Pewtercast award. Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. You looking to add to that this year, maybe with the recently vacated 3-time winner of the Media Personality of the Year award.
Well, I've never even been nominated for that one, so I'm probably not going to win that one.
We'll see. You never know. So, well, Cook, man, thanks so much for taking a few minutes out of. Are you good? Can we talk now?
Yeah. I'm
Okay,
good.
great.
I'm just putting in Copenhagen. I'm good.
Well, thanks for taking some time out. Man, really, Ren and I were just talking about how the last couple of weeks have sort of been like a meerkat. You just sort of poke your head out of the ground and go, all right, anything else happening right now? Nope. All right. And we duck back down underground. So, you know, you're there in Tampa. You're there. I imagine you're not necessarily at the facility these days very much.
No one's at the facility. It's completely shut down.
Right. So from at least your side, like, can you tell us anything? Like, is there anything that's going on? Like, I know now things have been shut down, but I mean, like, just in general over the last couple of weeks. I
mean,
what's going on?
Not really. I mean, just not a lot going on. And as I've said on our podcast, and I've written it before, this is going on season 9 or 10 for me full time, and it's been as tight-lipped as it's ever been. More so than it's ever been. And you know, for one thing, you know, listen, this team does not want anything coming out where it could be viewed as tampering. I mean, Bruce kind of, you know, violated some things, I guess, a little bit with his comments up in Indianapolis. I don't think anything has come of that. I don't know. I haven't heard. But bottom line is they're not, you know, they don't want to say anything about any free agent at this point, mainly because, you know, they're very, you know, want to be very careful about, you know, what gets out.
Uh-oh. Lost him. Let's give him a call back, see what's going on here.
You know, like my answer, so you hang up on me. I get it.
Sorry, I don't know what happened. All of a sudden it stopped, cut out on me.
Yeah. Yeah, so they don't want to, they never want to give up their information at all. But normally, not normally, but occasionally, you'll get that wink and nod. Blink twice if you're thinking about this person, kind of a deal. Man, I can't get any reading on anything. I mean, Scott's a little bit better at that, but whatever he knows, he's written and reported for the most part. And we try to tell people all the time. When we write opinion pieces, a lot of times those are formulated by information that we get. Right? It's not just us thinking, "Oh well, the Bucs should do this, or the Bucs are going to do this." I mean, they're educated guesses based on some information. Now, look, this organization, any organization, they're going to steer you wrong from time to time, right? Throw you off the scent. But I mean, most of the stuff we report, and even in Scott's Fab Five, a lot of that just comes from him, working his sources and things like that. So, but this year, man, it's been a lot. It's just been a lot more difficult. Everything on lockdown in the organization, and
is that Mark?
I don't.
Mark, is that because, I mean, it seems like that's been going on a lot longer than this whole virus thing has been going on. Like, I mean, this has kind of been the way it's been all off season. Just everything's on lockdown.
Yeah, no,
right?
It was a concerted effort from that Falcons game that ended the season until the draft that nothing gets shared with anybody. And yes, I mean, it was that was the plan. I think that was the plan as best we can figure, and that's fine. Certainly, they're right to do that. We've never really burned anybody as far as information that we've gotten. If we've gotten information, we've always cleared it to report it, depending on how they want it reported. But this year, I mean, it's just tough getting anything from anybody at all. Even the agents are not returning calls like normal. So I don't know. We'll see, man. Look, I may be just as surprised as you guys Monday when the legal tampering starts, and then Wednesday when free agency kicks off. We have an idea of some of the things they're going to do, but I don't know that anybody knows anything except the stone at this point. And I've said it too. I don't know that Bruce Arians and Jason Light, they don't know how the quarterback situation is going to shake out. They know what they want to do. They have a game plan, but they don't know how it's going to end up a month from now, a week from now, or 4 days from now.
All right. I have a question, Mark, and you talked about a little bit about how these opinion pieces are built off pieces of information that you get and things of that nature. This was something that struck me, and it's just something I just wanted to ask a credentialed media member, somebody who is not a fan and doesn't have anything at stake as far as the team goes. Now, you talked about the Tom Brady comment that Bruce Arians made at the Combine, that quote unquote was, actually, technically tampering. Now, that was at a side scrum after he got off the podium just with the Tampa media. Now, as a Tampa media member, I know you weren't there, but as a Tampa media member, do you find yourself responsible not to ask those questions? Because if he does answer it, the team gets hurt? Or it's like, I'm just here to see if he slips up and tells me something, and if he messes up and loses a draft pick, that's not my fault.
Well, it's never an I got you moment. I mean, we see that from time to time in the media, again, because those kind of things burn any opportunity to get any information later down the road, right? Okay, you may get one big story out of it if you talk a coach or a GM or a player into saying something that's very revealing and things like that. So it's never with myself, with Scott, and Scott's been very big on that since I started full time in 2011. That's not how we operate. We want to cultivate long-term sources, and we're not going to burn people. Scott has said, he's going to go to his grave with a ton of secrets that he's never going to be able to tell because they're off the record. They can't be reported. And that's just the way it is. So we never try and, trap anybody like that. But at the same time, if it is said in public and it is technically on the record, then I think it's our job to report it.
Right.
It's a fine line. Look, if Bruce and I were just chatting and he said that, no, I would not have reported that, but when he says it in a group in a public forum, then, we got to report what the coach said, and he knows better. But at the same time, I don't know that, it wasn't like he said, guys, we're going to go full bore after Tom Brady. He's the guy that I want. I can't, he was just kind of just a quick question, who's the one guy you'd call, right? And, Tom Brady. He was just being honest there. And he did say he did call Tom Brady, or he's going to call Tom Brady before Monday. But so I don't know that. I think the league respects Bruce enough and understands where he's coming from there. It wasn't anything evil or sinister there. But it is our job to report it as they say it. But again, if it was, it's just Bruce and I were having some Crown one night, and he told me that, and I went and reported it the next day. I can assure you, the organization would be very unhappy, and I would never get another bit of information from Bruce Arians again.
Well, yes, so that's sort of like the balancing act, sure. Like the press, journalists, the media is there to, get to the truth no matter what. That's what the TV shows and the movies, lead, people to believe. Yeah. But really, it's more of a, like, let me put it this way. How many stories do you not report on that would do well because of the balance, the high wire act, the balancing act you're doing between the player, the organization, and Pewter Report as a media entity?
Several a year. I mean,
several, is that 20 or is that 5?
It's probably in the neighborhood of around 10, maybe.
Wow.
I mean, again, I'd have to really think about that.
Yeah.
But between 7, 8, 9, 10, somewhere along there. Some years it's more, depending on who the people are that you're dealing with specifically. I would say that. I mean, there were things that went on during the Shiano regime that and Greg's been gone. Now we revealed something today on our podcast that I joked around with Scott. The statute of limitations are over, and believe it or not, I can't even remember what it is right now because it's
LeGarrette Blount.
Old, but
LeGarrette Blount.
Yeah, LeGarrette Blount thing. And again, we alluded to some things over the years, but I don't know that we've ever come out really and said it. Now, again, okay, this isn't going to turn into a national story. I mean, I don't think anybody really cares.
Right.
But I mean, those are the kind of things. There's a lot of those type of things that we hear a lot, and we have our sources, and we have opportunities to sit down and talk to people at sources different times during the year, and we've had dinners with people, we've had drinks with people, we've and sometimes people over the years say stuff in a state that maybe they shouldn't be in, right? And so you have to balance that, right? You probably had a couple too many, so we're not going to report that. But yeah, no, there's several things a year, and I would say that's the case for Jenna Lane, for Rick Stroud, for Greg Auman, for pretty much anybody in that building. We just try and we don't want to. It's not worth burning the bridge, right? Again, if it's something earth-shattering that could affect the livelihood, or if somebody could be in danger or something like that, which I can't even think of a scenario where it would be. At that point, maybe you would consider it a little bit more, but to me, it's not worth it. Look, Scott and I, and Ren, you've been with us when we sat around having a few drinks at the table. I mean, Scott and I sometimes share those things with our readers at get-togethers, things like that. Little things like that. But there's plenty of things that go on that we just can't report. We want to, and it's funny. Sometimes we get in Twitter. I hate to use the word wars or battles because what we do is nothing compared to military, obviously. So I've always hated that comparison. But Twitter spats, how about that, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Where somebody is a fan, and again, I've been there. I'm the same way on Saturday for Florida State. I get the passion, I get the frustration, I get the anger. But I do try and respect the beat writers that cover those teams that I follow, in the fact that they know a little bit more than me, right? That's just the bottom line. They just do. And, I mean, Brent knows a ton more about podcasting than I do. So I'm not going to sit there on Twitter and sit here and argue with Brent about what the best microphone is. I mean, I buy the microphones that he tells me to because he's the authority. And, but sometimes we know things when we're arguing. I mean, when they argue, but, debating with readers on Twitter, and we just can't say anything. And I want to, because I'm a fiery guy, right? I'm a reactionary guy. I got a quick temper. I'd like to be able to do that. But Scott's taught me over the years, that's just not what we do. That's just not how we operate. It's not worth it. So, we're not going to do those things. But sometimes there are, things that you try and give. Well, I say you. I think the reporters try and give the wink and the nod, right? So maybe people will understand it. Sometimes people get it. Sometimes people can read between the lines. Sometimes they don't. They die on that hill. But there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that that we just can't report. Buy Scott and I enough drinks and maybe it comes out. But I don't drink, so it probably wouldn't work.
Mark, that's why I come down. That's why I come down as often as I can, as often as you guys invite me. Yeah, we'll talk microphones and here, have another beer. Let's talk.
Right.
Well, speaking of drinks and dinners and having those things with players, you just had one last night, I believe, at the Mill. The Demir Dotson's a part owner.
I actually didn't attend that one. I wish I would have.
You didn't?
This is why we needed Ledyard, right?
No, I wasn't there. I didn't go. I probably should have, obviously now in hindsight, but I'm kind of self-quarantining myself. Not really, but I probably should. But no, I didn't go to the Mill for that. And I didn't realize how many players were actually going to be there. I knew that DeMar was there. But I did have lunch with DeMar last Friday, a week ago. He and I were at the Capitol Grill. That was my first time going there. It was a very enjoyable experience, and love listening to DeMar. I mean, you've been around DeMar Dotson enough to know that he's a brutally honest guy, right? He doesn't hold a lot back, man. And again, listen, I got stuff from DeMar last week that I can't report. I mean, just now that I'm thinking about it, there are things right there that he told me that I'm not going to report those things. Maybe 5 years from now we'll unleash some of those things, but right now it's not going to be advantageous for me to do that. Okay, so I get a few more thousand reads on something because I reported something, but guess what? Then DeMar's never going to tell me anything again. So again, but those things help formulate our opinion. That's what I'm trying to get at. Those meetings, that again, if people will kind of read between the lines on things, I think they'll get a better understanding of what we're trying to say without coming out and saying it.
Yeah, I actually worked for that chef, Chef Ted Dorsey. He's won Best in the Bay chef, and I've worked for a lot of the the top tier 1% chefs in Pinellas and Hillsborough County, and the guy that Demir has partnered up with, Chef Dorsey, his food's on point. It's excellent. So I feel sorry for you that you didn't go. I almost went just because I want, I know Dorsey's food. Like I know his food. I knew he was going to do something special. Donovan put out an Instagram where it was like a bacon truffle Nutella ganache meatball that was a dessert. I mean, the guy is really creative, so it's excellent.
It's when I went the first time to the Mill to meet with them and the owners and the chef and DeMar and things like that, they put out a spread, man, that and I felt terrible because there was so much food. I was only able to sample, a lot of the things, but I mean, I ate things that I can't pronounce. I mean, I was looking at the menu today when I was doing the podcast, and I mentioned this cast iron cinnamon roll because that was pretty much the only thing I could pronounce on the menu. Right. I mean, I'm a country boy from Pinecrest, and so now it doesn't mean I don't enjoy the fancier foods. I just don't know how to say them. And I had some octopus for the first time there. It was grilled. I don't even remember what all it was grilled. If you look at the menu, you can see it. A lot of interesting things. I think they kind of explained it to me. It's a southern cooking combined with some French cooking type deals, and it's really a neat fusion of different types of food. Some of the stuff I didn't like, you know what I mean? Some of the stuff I absolutely love, but it's a really cool place, and I'm looking forward to spending some time there going. But I wish I would have went. Probably had I known there was going to be that many players there, including Jameis Winston. Now,
I know.
let's go back to what we were talking about earlier. If Jameis is there in a social setting, and I'm there as a guest too, I'm not there as a reporter, right? I mean, your instinct is always to kind of see what you gather. But I mean, this guy is essentially off the clock, and so I don't want to be that guy either. When we go to the players' charity events and things like that, I mean,
Right.
Mike Evans golf tournament. When Mike played, I was with the official photographer for the event, and so basically, I drove her around, and we followed Mike Evans for 18 holes. Now, as soon as we stopped, when he would stop at a hole to play the hole, I would go to the pond and fish. But I mean, I did spend some time with Mike too, as well, and some of the other players. Jameis was there, Brian Mitchell, and so I did spend some time there. But at the same time, again, you have to realize, that these guys, they don't always want to talk football. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
Jameis. I spent more time talking to Jameis about my son and his future and things he wants to do a lot more than I don't even know that we talked about football back in June.
Wait,
at that golf
Mark, are you telling me that these guys are human beings as well?
Imagine that.
Wow.
Imagine that. Now, again, I'm as bad when I watch Florida State football, and it's even worse for me because not only are these guys humans, they're kids, man. I mean, they're my son's age, and I'm dog cussing them, in the living room, and I think what a jackass I am when I sit back and go back and read some of my tweets, how stupid I am on there. So I get the passion, man. I get that we can forget that these people are human beings, but I'll say that I enjoy watching Mike Evans interact with the lady that's selling the Jello shots, right? And Mike is. There's 53 guys on the roster, and then you got your 10 practice squad guys. But I don't know that there's a more real, down to earth guy in that locker room. I mean, maybe DeMar Dotson, but Mike is the most unassuming $18 million guy you'll ever meet. I mean, he doesn't brag, he doesn't flaunt things, he doesn't have the gaudy jewelry, he doesn't act like he's any better than the lady selling the Jello shots, right? Or the lady that's got the massage table set up. I mean, just watching how he interacts with people, it's really fascinating to me. I don't think people care that much because, people say all the time, why don't you write more of the human interest stuff? Look, we track every story we write. We know how many people click on that story and read it. Those things just don't get read.
Yeah.
They just don't get read. And it's a shame because, and we still try and put some of that stuff out there because it's what's fair and right to the players, even though we know it's not going to get a ton of reads. But watching these guys interact, Levante David at his bowling thing, Donovan Smith at his bowling thing, Mike, he does a bowling thing and the golf tournament. Jameis Winston, I've been obviously to all of his football camps since he's been in Tampa. I've seen him at his. I went to his Winston Foundation dinner this year and watched those guys interact. It is easy to forget sometimes that they are human beings. They're really genuinely, pretty good people. And Patty Fiskis told me a long time ago though too, and I have to keep this in mind too, that as much as you like these guys, or I think not like, but as much as you get to know them, they're still not your friend. And he's absolutely right, right? As much as I love Alan Cross, and that was a joke, he was my son, and he was my go-to guy in the locker room. We talked every day for 3 years, right, in open locker room. Look, he moved to Memphis, and Alan Cross has never picked up the phone and texted me. I mean, and so I can see how, reporters sometimes get that feeling like, oh, yeah, I'm buddies with these guys. You've got to keep crossing that line as well, because if Alan Cross drops a fourth down pass in the end zone that wins the game, I got to put him on the most disappointing list,
Yeah.
And so you can't cross that line. But Pat's right. Even the guys who do cross that line, they're really sadly mistaken for the most part. There are relationships that build. J.P. Peterson and Brondé Barber are genuine friends, right? They're genuinely friends. Now me and Warren Sapp, we chat and talk from time to time. And he'll text me every once in a while, or we'll communicate via Twitter. Again, Warren Sapp's not considering me a friend, though, as much as I like the guy, as much as I enjoy, being around Warren and listening to his stories. And there's not a better storyteller out there than Warren Sapp. But again, we're not their friends. But I do like to see these guys interact and be around them in environments that aren't football, just to see the different types. And I've seen the real turds too. I mean, there's been a few of those in this locker room over the years. But for the most part, generally, they're pretty good guys. They really are. DeMar told us on our podcast that we did at Sports Garage late last year in December that, this is the best locker room that he's been around. There wasn't any, and he didn't say his name, but I'm going to say a name like a Chris Baker type or, things like that. But here's something that DeMar did tell me, now that we're talking about it, that I can reveal, and it's not a story, but it's not anything that I asked him how Deshaun Jackson was in the locker room. What kind of guy was he? I mean, we get the impression. I say we get the impression, but you hear things. He was a jerk and he was bad for the locker room. And DeMar said, I never had a problem with the guy at all. I mean, he was very selective in who he interacted with. He wasn't a real, buddy with a lot of guys type of player. But he said he was not a locker room cancer. So if anybody thinks that Deshaun Jackson was a locker room cancer or a pain in the ass in the locker room, DeMar said no, and I tend to believe what DeMar says because he told me that we were just casually having lunch, so it wasn't like I'm asking him with a microphone in front of his face. I believe what he said.
Mark, I got to tell you, I very much appreciate this conversation and kind of the line of questioning Ren's been taking it on, because there's been a lot of talk out in the fandom this year about, oh, that's just an opinion, or, oh, that's this, or this person doesn't know anything, or this person doesn't know this, and they're talking about like you guys or Rick Stroud or Jenna or, anybody who's there. And I'm kind of sitting here like, I've interacted with you guys enough to know like what you're telling me. Like when you or Scott or somebody like tweets out something that might sound like an opinion, I've been around you guys enough to know like they know more than what they're actually just stating right there. Like there's something behind that. So I really appreciate that. And just to sort of wrap this around as we wrap up this phone call, without revealing any information that you're not allowed to, or, based on your observations and talks with people, and I'm not going to ask you to dime anyone out, but the biggest news story I think that's come out lately has been about the whole Tom Brady thing. And I guess the question I have with that, just as far as you can tell, is there fire behind the smoke? Is this really something that's going out there?
Yes, there is. And again, has anybody in the organization told Scott or I, we're going all in on Tom Brady? No, no one's told us that. I don't think anybody has told Rick Stroud that word for word, right? Again, sometimes it is a heavily educated opinion that you put out there as a writer, right? Sure. And we know that if it doesn't happen, we're going to get ridiculed and hammered for it, right? But sometimes you feel strongly enough about things based on some conversations that you have and some, some feelings that you get, some vibes that you get. And again, I say that no one has said that to Rick Stroud. I can't say that for sure. He may have. Jason Light may have told him that. I don't believe that to be the case, but yeah, there's definitely smoke behind that fire, or fire behind that smoke, or sheeps and wolves clothing. I don't know what I'm talking about, but you understand what I'm saying. It's not just Rick sitting there saying, what the hell am I going to write today? I think I'll throw this out there. It's just not what Rick Stroud does. Look, I've had disagreements with Rick Stroud. I understand that he can rub people the wrong way sometimes.
Sure.
I mean, there are plenty of people that dislike me and people that dislike Scott. But I got kind of pissy about somebody else a couple days ago when he wrote that story. Saying, well, if this doesn't happen, Rick Stroud should be fired. I'm like, are you kidding me, really? I mean, Rick clearly said that Jameis is still an option. He's just way down the list. And we believe that to be exactly the case, too, based on some of the conversations we've had. Doesn't mean we're 100% right. I mean, sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and think to myself, this is all just a big smoke and mirrors game to try and drive Jameis's price down. I mean, Jameis might be the guy all along. Maybe this is a calculated effort from Bruce's last press conference. You know, when he said we can win with anybody, we can win with him, or we can win with another quarterback. I mean, you know, I don't think that's the case, but you know, sometimes those thoughts do pop into your head. But Rick, and I know there's people out there just like Rick, but Rick's allowed to have an opinion as well, right? Rick is allowed to just like the fans have their opinion, Jameis should stay. If Rick thinks Jameis is not going to change, it's going to be a turnover machine. He's allowed to write that. I mean, you know, and he can't be held. He's not reporting it as, you know, the Buccaneers have completely moved on from Jameis Winston. He didn't write that in the story, and that's what kind of irked me the other day. And of course, you know, I find myself getting into these vortexes with Twitter sometimes. And even tonight, I finally just had to sign off because I wasn't going to win. You know, people have their opinions and they're entitled to them. I'm entitled to mine. You know, I'm not going to win that battle with people. It's kind of like arguing politics, right? I mean, you're a Trump guy, or you're a Bernie guy, or you're a Biden guy, or you're a Hillary guy. You know, I've never met anybody that's changed their political opinion and who they're voting for based on getting in an argument or a debate with somebody on social media. Not to say it can't happen, but I've never seen it happen. You know, I'm not gonna change, and I don't suspect those people are gonna change. So there are people out there that dislike Rick Stroud, but there's plenty of people that dislike all of them. And you know, some of that is stemmed from a few years ago when somebody that will mention his name, you know, tried to turn the fan base against the evil media. You know, I mean, I don't even know what the hell that means. You know, it's just, you know, I get it. If you don't like the way Rick writes, you don't like his style, that's fine. Don't question the man's credibility. All right, that's the thing that, you know, that's what got me to offer to fight the guy in lot 6. Literally, I mean, it was a board post where somebody called me a hack who just makes shit up, and I was like, well, all right, that's enough of that. I said, and I told him, I said, the hack will be in lot 6 at 10:13. There's 2 oak trees out there in that lot. I park there every week. If you want to talk about it, let's talk. So, you know, I don't care if people don't like my style of writing. I don't care if people don't like my style of the podcast. But don't question my integrity. I don't think that's fair, really, for majority of the writers, particularly in the Tampa Bay area. There's some bad apples out there that are very biased, and in today's political climate, some of that stuff, its opinions are seeping into what we see today in the sports writing world as well. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. Though.
All right. Well, Mark, go ahead, Ren. Go ahead.
Yeah, last one from me. You know, I think it's just a weird sort of relationship. You know, Buccaneer beat writers, Buccaneers media has with the fans, and you know, you mentioned it before, basically when it started, and I kind of feel that it's sort of, it's just like a Buccaneer thing, and like Brent talked about earlier, you know, we've had interactions with you. You know, we've been able to step behind the curtain enough to understand what you're, you know, everything that you've told us tonight, I've heard before, and I've seen it to be true. You know, we have been able to sort of cross the threshold very briefly a couple of times a year and see this in action. Now, with this, you know, the coronavirus, and they talked about before they, you know, have shut down all of sports, they talked about, I guess, restricting media access to locker rooms and only doing podium. How much do you think that would hinder your reporting, and how much of these sort of like piecing together winks and nods and little bits here and there that you combine a story that comes out that has to be that's one of your, you know, one that you're proud of, that comes out of, you know, that weekly locker room visit?
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff that we get. A lot of it is what I talked about earlier, formulating opinions. And I talk to guys in the locker room all the time, and you know, they don't necessarily want to go on record by saying things, but they'll tell you things, and that kind of helps formulate what we write. So there would be the absence of that for the most part. I think that would hurt. I mean, to me, I'm a big proponent of access to players, and actually I had Jenna tweeted something about that the other day, and somebody's like, you guys, we don't really care what you have to say, but which bothers me, because if you don't get a neutral person who's interviewing players and coaches and writing about things like that, then you're getting a sanitized version of what the team wants out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, whether that's in politics, whether that's in sports, whether that's in, science, whatever it is, if that's the case, those people should probably just be reading Buccaneers.com, which does a tremendous job. I think Scott Smith and Carmen do a great job, and their social media team is one of the best in the NFL. And I like a lot of the things that they do, but Scott Smith can't be overtly critical of the team, right? He works for the organization.
Uh-oh. Scott just dropped us there, bro. Anyway, we'll see if we can't get him back here in just a second. But, yeah, we'll try to get him back. So, hey, real quick, while I'm on this break, I just want to say hello to everybody who's out there in the in our chat room, everybody who's joining us live at YouTube, because we are live. We'll see if we can't finish this here. I guess you hit your time limit there, right?
I don't know. I mean, maybe Buccaneers listening, they just cut us off.
Right.
In our phones. I don't know.
Right.
What was I saying? I was trying to remember what I was saying.
You were talking about Jenna.
Jenna said something, responded back to me about that. I think it's important. I think, and that's what scares me about the demise of newspapers in general, is I think, listen, Richard Nixon, right? Watergate happened because of news reporters.
Mm-hmm.
Again, sports is not politics. Sports is not Watergate and crooked presidents and things like that. I get that, but at the same time, you're going to end up with just there's fewer and fewer people covering football teams these days with the demise of newspapers. We don't get Roy Cummings' opinion anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We still get Irish to a degree, but not maybe in the same capacity he did when he worked for the Tampa Tribune. We don't get Rick Brown's opinion from the Lakeland Ledger and his stories that he came up with. The Brayton Herald, they don't come down anymore. They don't have a beat writer anymore. So, the loss of reporters and journalists, to me, and access to locker rooms and players and things like that really hurts the fans, whether they want to believe it or not. And again, this person responded back to Jenna very rudely, like, we don't really care what you have to say, or, you guys get over yourself or something like that. But I think anybody that understands, history understands how important that an independent news media or journalist really is to it's a checks and balance system. I think it's important to have that, because if not, we're all just going to end up just, reading exactly what the team wants to put out there. And I'm not going to call it Soviet Russia and the KGB, but in a sense, I mean, that's all we're going to get. It's as the media dies down to a degree. And then you get the guys that are sort of blogging, just fans or whatever that have the fan sites, things like that. And I don't disparage those guys, because everybody's got to start somewhere. And in today's technology and in today's society, you can have a podcast. You guys can do a podcast, right? You're not there every day, but you can do a podcast and do a very good informed podcast. But then at the same time, anybody and their brother could start a Buccaneers podcast and make the claim that they're insiders or Buccaneer experts, and yet I've never seen them one day inside the locker room. Doesn't mean they can't write good content.
Mark, I'm pretty sure everybody and their brother has started a Buccaneers podcast, to be for the record.
Maybe the most podcast for an NFL team anywhere. I say that. I don't know what it's like in New York or New England and things like that. But,
it's not as much. I've looked. It's not as much. It's really not.
Yeah.
So,
and I will listen to others from time to time. There's some good stuff out there.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what happens though is fans sometimes forget. And again, this is going to sound like I'm some egomaniac. I'm not. But sometimes they want to take that opinion over the people who are generally boots on the ground, right? Inside the locker room every day. And I just ask people to, don't just get locked in on one thing. I mean, I read Jenna stuff. I read Rick Strauss stuff. I read Greg Allman stuff. You know, I listen to your podcast. I listen to the Locked On podcast. I listen to SB Nation stuff, read their stuff from time to time. So I read Joe Buck's fan. I mean, it's you know, I think it's important that fans, you know, try and read as many sources as they can, because if not, then you're just getting one version, and I don't know that's always the most accurate version. So read it all, then you can formulate your opinion based on all the. Because there is a lot of information out there, and there's a lot of sources out there. There's some guys that do really good work that aren't, you know, they might be insurance salesmen. They may sell RVs at Lazy Days, but you know, they may not be dialed in inside the building, but doesn't mean they can't put out good content. And you know, we always are looking for writers, and the first thing we do is we go to these, you know, we go to these blog type places and things like that, and people on Twitter, who's impressed us, right? Who do we feel is knowledgeable? Sometimes it's our own readers in our message boards. I mean, that's where Jim Flynn came from with Scott Reynolds before I was there, before Charlie Campbell. I mean, he was just a reader, a Pew Report guy who did tremendous posts and analyzations of things on our message board, and Scott ended up hiring the guy.
Well, isn't that how Trevor actually got started as well?
Yeah, I mean, to a degree. I mean, Trevor was pretty much kind of fresh out of college, and you know, was very active on Twitter and very knowledgeable about football, and certainly caught Scott's eye. And yeah, I mean, so I mean, you gotta again. I everybody's got to start somewhere.
Right.
The one thing, and I did have a bit of an issue this week with somebody that kind of lifted some of our stuff. And again, I had a discussion. I finally did have a discussion with the person, and they apologized and corrected and explained the situation. So I didn't name them or put them on blast. And if it happens again, then we will. But I think everybody deserves a second chance if they made a mistake. I mean, there's been stories in my time that I've written where maybe I didn't source it correctly or link the story, and had to go back and do that. And I think that's only fair. When somebody has put in the time, which Scott and John and Taylor put in the time of asking specifically players, have you had a meeting with the Buccaneers? Are you going to have a meeting with the Buccaneers? When was your meeting with the Buccaneers? And we compiled a list, which was fairly time consuming. And then just to have somebody just grab that list and put it up like it was theirs when they weren't even in Indianapolis, really kind of activated Scott and I. So, but look, I mean, mistakes happen, and he was very remorseful, and I don't think we'll have that issue again.
I tell you, Mark, we kind of have a saying around here. We haven't said it in a while, but it is sort of a mantra that we don't report the news here at the Pewtercast. We just comment on the news. Occasionally we have a guy like you who comes on the show, or we get one of those days where we get a peek behind the curtain or get to go behind the curtain and come back with something juicy. But mostly we just comment. So Mark, we'll go ahead and leave it there, and I'll just leave it with, man, we're just waiting on some news from you guys so we can comment on it and talk about it, as I'm sure you are, because I got to tell you, and you said this way up at the top of our conversation, there really hasn't been any news. And it seems like the team has been very, hush hush and on the DL. Cause even now, we haven't, as far as we know, we haven't re-signed hardly any of our own free agents. And usually you've heard I'm sorry, that's my Kentucky coming out. You've heard of at least, a few at this point. I know Tanner Hudson, I think, is the only one I've actually seen. So Mark, man, thanks so much.
That's it right now.
Yeah. And man, thanks so much for your time tonight. We really appreciate it. I think Ren's got something to say as we sign you off here.
Yeah. Just echoing what Brent said about thanks you for coming on. This is usually like a 10-20 minute thing. I think we're an hour into it. So thank you very much. Like Bucs fans will
I always
love
say to
you.
myself, when I do these things, I always say that I'm going to tell people like 20 minutes, but I tend to just keep rambling on. So I can only blame myself that it's been an hour, because, when you ask me a question, I go on for 4 minutes. I mean, that's my fault. So I can't even be mad. But I like talking to you guys, because it's just like, it's no different really. This conversation we had is no different than us sitting around at Ford's Garage, right? It's no different. And that's why I enjoy, I don't mind doing your guys' podcast. There's something that we do that's like full of teeth. And again, young kids, a lot of times, young people, I say anybody than 40 is a kid to me. But I like it to just be a conversation, and I try and pattern when I interview somebody on a podcast, like when we had Warren Sapp, when we had Bruce Arians on this year. I want it to be, I don't usually, I usually have like some topics to hit on, but we just kind of let it go and let them kind of direct which way it goes. And I don't know. That's what I enjoyed listening to. I'm a big Howard Stern guy. Whatever you think about Howard Stern, the guy is a tremendous interviewer, and I learned so much by his style of interviewing. But what I'm saying is you guys, when I come on here, it doesn't feel like it's been an hour. Your listeners may hate it, and I don't know that we talk about anything that they give a damn about tonight. But to me, it was good conversation, and I enjoyed it. That's why I don't mind doing your show when I can.
I appreciate it, Mark. Would you like to do a last-ditch effort promoting your battle plan before my final rankings come out?
No. You hate it. It's fine. I mean, I don't even want to know what the updated one is. I have a feeling I'm going to be fifth just because it's me. It's my name. Where Trevor Sikkema, it'd probably be, number 1 or 2, but because it's me, and that's okay. I don't mind being the whipping boy for Ren from time to time. I can live with that. I know it was a solid battle plan, but we also know that a lot of that stuff's not going to happen. But again, we do it based on what we feel like we would do if we were the general manager. And we don't want people to think that this is our prediction of what the Buccaneers are going to do. We have fun with it. This is how we would handle it if we were the general manager. And we try and be as realistic as possible, though, because I could say, oh yeah, they need to go. They need to sign, they need to trade for Ezekiel Elliott. Now, so they got the best running game, and they should go out and talk Walter Jones out of retirement, and whatever. My point is, it's not Madden football, right, where you can override the trade button. We try and be as realistic as possible,
right?
And we'll see how it pans out. But it's always fun. I wrote about it in our in one of my columns this week in the Throwback Thursday when we talked about the free agency, the top 5 worst free agents in Buccaneer history. And I said, listen, free agency is really only second to the draft as far as fans go. And I go back to when I did do this for a living. I love free agency, right? I remember how excited I was when they signed Hardy Dickerson. I can remember exactly where I was, and I was reading the Tampa Tribune, and I was so excited that Hardy Dickerson was coming to Tampa Bay. I was excited when Alvin Harper was coming to Tampa Bay. Not so much with Eric Rice or Anthony Collins, but you understand what I'm saying. So, it's really, free agency is really second only to the draft. And really, some people like free agency more. I'm not as big of a draft guy as Scott, John, and Trevor, or even Taylor is at this point. But I really enjoy free agency. To me, I liked it a little bit more before the legal tampering thing came on, because it literally was, we were sitting on our computers with our phone in our hand, and emails pulled up at exactly 4 o'clock to start hounding agents. Have you had any discussions with the Bucs? It was a lot more investigative. Now with the legal tampering deal, it's not as much of that. And so it's kind of like when your parents let you. My parents never did, but I've heard of other people. You get to open like 1 or 2 gifts on Christmas Eve. You know what I mean? Not me. I want to wait till I get up that morning and have everything to open. So I'm not a big fan of the legal tampering period, because it does kind of, we kind of know what's going to happen around 4 o'clock whenever free agency opens. But it's exciting to me. It's still a fun time of the year for me. And I like the draft too. I love being at One Buccaneer Place on Thursday night when the bell rings and Roger Goodell walks up with that first pick, man. It is exciting. It's something that I love, and I am so blessed, fortunate to have this job. I really am, and I hope people understand that I do, as much as I goof around and I'm silly, I do take this job extremely serious, and I am very appreciative of the opportunity to be able to do this for a living, because I've mowed grass, I've dug ditches, I've underwritten insurance policies, what else have I done? I've shoveled manure, I've loaded cows to take. I've had every job you can think of. I worked in the phosphate mines for 3 months. So this is a dream come true for me, and I'm hoping at 10 years that nobody pinches me and wakes me up and says, "Hey, Mark Cook, you need to go back to Pinecrest to go back to working for the mines again." this is a great opportunity, a great job, and I appreciate it. And I hope people understand that. As much again as I goof around, I do take it very serious, and I love what I do, and do it because of great readers out there, and try and give them the best content, even if I don't agree with them on Twitter sometimes.
There you go.
I know we keep trying to end this conversation, but I would be remiss. They actually got you working this year, Mark. Brent's rolling his eyes at me. They actually got you working this year, Mark. Do you want to go ahead and plug the 2 columns that you'll be doing weekly?
No. This is great, Mark. I love these new columns you have going on. So yes, please do this. I love the new stuff you got.
Technically, it's 4 if you want to count the mailbag, which, believe it or not,
the mailbag does not count.
The other one, because we do the mailbag. I do the mailbag on Monday.
Yeah.
And Scott, when we started talking this year about some new writing outlets for me, he's like, let somebody else do the mailbag. I was like, no, that's my baby. I started that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not giving it up. It's a pain in the ass on Sunday night. To start it and up early Monday or staying up late on Sunday night to get it done. But I enjoy doing it. But then I do the behind the enemy lines on Tuesday, where we kind of take a peek around the NFC South to the Buccaneers rivals, what they're doing, what the latest rumors and notes are about them. Then on Thursday, we do the hook. I do the hook, which is is an opinion-based column. And then at the end of that, with the cannon blast, where we kind of goof around a little bit. Maybe I tell a story that I think is funny or whatever. Maybe most people don't, but whatever. I have a little fun with that. And then also on Thursday, the Throwback Thursday. And we're still trying to figure out exactly, I don't know if the Throwback Thursday is going to be a weekly, every week kind of deal. It's believe it or not, again, going back to the human interest stories, you're limiting your audience to a degree on the Throwback Thursday, because a lot of times, if these are newer Buccaneer fans, they don't really care that Ricky Bell, the Ricky Bell story, or the
or they know who Alan Harper is.
About. They're like, who's Alan Harper? I don't even know who that is. So, but I enjoy. That's probably my favorite thing to do, because I get to reminisce, and because I've seen every game since the end of the '77 season up until now. Either saw it in person, watched it on TV, or listened to it on the radio. I mean, except for one year, I think it was '94, when Uncle of mine passed away, and they had his funeral on a Sunday at 2:00, and I was so mad. How dare he die and have a funeral on a Sunday, because I missed the first half of the Bucs Redskins game. But I mean, so I enjoy doing the Throwback Thursday as much as anything. So there's 4 things that I do pretty much every week. Throwback Thursday, we may start doing that, once a month, maybe twice a month. We're still trying to fill it out. We're trying to base it on, the amount of reads that it gets, the views, the response that we get from the readers. But I enjoy it. I like having signature columns. I think that's something that, that my bosses have wanted me to do for a while. But I'm not a Trevor Sikkema, okay? I'm not the guy that enjoys breaking down plays and game stuff. That's not my expertise. I mean, I can. It's just not what I enjoy doing. I enjoy more of the freestyle writing and the opinion type things, and trying to be a little funny from time to time. So anyway, there you go. I appreciate you guys. I just love those things. I hope people will check them out.
There you go. All right, Mark Cook, pewterreport.com. You guys make sure you go check it out. He's got all sorts of signature pieces, taking over the entire channel from Scott and the rest of the guys out there. And he is the voice of the podcast when, well, he's not suspended. And who knows, maybe he'll be kind enough to actually let John Ledyard come on the show here at the Pewtercast once or twice this year.
Now, John can come on. John, I know I'm not going to win Entertainer of the Year, whatever that award is. What's the award?
Media Personality of the Year.
Yeah. I'm not going to win that. I mean, there's a small chance.
Mm-hmm.
Small chance I could still be guest of the year again if we can. If I could take a club to Carmen Vitale's knee or whoever went last year. I might Nancy Garrett to her. But
Mark, I think it's as simple as writing a computer program to go in and override the voting system. Which I know is your expertise. So
I will never win again if that's the case. I know nothing about that at all. Anyway, well, I appreciate you guys having me on. You guys do a great job. Enjoy chatting with you guys. Enjoy listening to your podcast. And, hope to catch you in Tampa soon, man. But
yeah, man, let's go to Ford's Garage,
stay
brother.
Healthy.
Let's go to Ford's Garage. All right,
stay healthy.
All right, yeah, you too, Mark.
Man.
Talk to you later, bud. All right, well, that was Mark Cook, pewterreport.com. Let's get him out of here. Get him out of here. All right, Ren. Fun conversation. That's that conversation that goes kind of the way we always say that they go. You say, "Hey, word," and then they go. And Mark himself actually talked about that's kind of how they go. So, Ren, we're gonna take just a short break. Do what?
Before we do?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
If Mark is like, if he doesn't get nominated for anything this year, we can just come up with like the long-winded award.
Well, yeah, there you go.
And
there you go.
You know,
and he'll certainly get it.
He'll get nominated at least, probably win.
Right. I mean, and by the way, for anyone who's never actually sat down with Mark Cook, like had lunch with him or had a beer with him, that's literally how conversations go. That's right there.
That's it. So, Mark, I know what you're gonna say. Blah, 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 blah. All right, man.
That's it. That's
like
it. That's
I'm halfway home and doesn't realize I got up yet.
Right. It's true. But I mean, hey, we keep bringing Mark back on the show.
Oh no, it's great.
Times a year.
It's great.
Yeah, I love
it. What I was trying to tell him at one point before he cut me off, what a shocker, was that about talking so long. I was gonna thank him because of what Not that I'm blaming any other podcast, but how many times we talk about Jameis Winston? And this was a different type of conversation. It was a long conversation, and there's no sports going on. So this is going to give, something Buck fans, they can kind of sink their teeth into and think about some of the way that, you think about local media, treat local media, and what like cutting off their access could be. Because if all they get is podium interviews, they're all writing the same story.
Right. They're doing the exact same thing that we do.
Yes. Exact same thing we do.
Exactly. So with that, Ren, there's been people in the chat room. I mentioned very briefly, we're actually live streaming this particular recording. And so typically with stuff like that, I can go in and kind of clean up the editing process, but this is a live stream, so I can't do that live. But a lot of people have been asking about this mock draft that we've kind of teased and said. So we're going to take just a short break. And by a short break, guys, for those of you on the live stream, I'm talking like 30 seconds. For those of you out there on podcast land, we're going to maybe hopefully pay some bills. But you guys stay with us. We're going to be right back in just a second with our mock draft, Brent's mock draft of 2020 offseason. You guys stay with us. We'll be right back.
Are you putting a...
Welcome back to the show, guys.
No, I need that 30 seconds.
Oh, you need the 30. No, go ahead, man. Go.
I thought you were going to throw up the... I'm like, are you going to throw up
the thing? Oh, no.
The thing, so I could stand up?
Hey, you go. I'll drop you out of the chat. You just let me know when you're ready to come back in. So, yeah, I got you. Maybe not. Hey, guys. Welcome back to the show. Let's hear. I'm going to mute him so y'all don't hear him. All right. Hey, so musical interlude over. This is what we call podcasting. You guys are here for the live recording of the Pewtercast. So I'm going to take this opportunity while I got you guys here. I want to talk to you guys who are live on the stream. So drop your questions, drop your comments. Would love to interact with you guys while we're just going to sort of here on a quick break. Let me know who you think I should be drafting. What should I be looking at? So I'm about to go through this. I don't do mock drafts. I really don't. So I'm interested. I've only done one of these once, and it was like last year when they first came out with this mock draft machine, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing. So you guys do that. I know there's a little bit of a delay between me and when you guys hear it, and then when you pop it in, and then it pops back into the chat room. So we'll just kind of riff. That was a fun conversation with Cook just a few minutes ago. Somebody says Kazon. I'm assuming that's a person. I have no idea who that is. Fun conversation, Mark. I really did like where Ren took that conversation and where Mark went with it as well. Was not what I was expecting to have happen. Obviously Mark spent a good chunk of time talking about what it is to be in the media there in Tampa and just sort of in general and kind of the public perception with that. But it's the off season. This is a good time for that. Let's hear David Harrison. What's up, David? He says, first person to suggest a cooker gets banned from live streams. I don't know that I can boot people, but I can just ignore them in the chat, David. So where do we go in the first round? Well, okay, so here's the way this is going to work. I'm going to pull up the TDN mock draft machine. You guys will be able to see it there. And here's the difference. we don't know what the Buccaneers, like the team, is going to look like come April, because we haven't gone through free agencies. We haven't gone through re-signing our own guys. We haven't done any of that. So we'll just assume that my battle plan is correct, and we'll go off of that. So with that, I don't know. And offensive line certainly could be a big piece of that. Defensive line could be a big piece of it, depending on what quarterbacks are available, if any. You could make a real good case that regardless if it's Jameis or Tom Brady or somebody else, that maybe we actually go ahead and draft a quarterback first. So, we'll see. And that's going to be a part of the conversation that Ren and I have as we come back in. So, yeah, where can we go? I'm leaning towards offensive line if there's a good caliber offensive line left at 14. I'm not sure who's entirely out there. I'm typically not a fan of going running back in the first, unless you're really talking about a Saquon Barkley type running back, and we certainly could use that sort of person at running back. Rojo's fine, I guess, but he hasn't shown me enough to be the starting running back right now. So, that's kind of my thought on that. Looks like Ren's coming back in. Let me unmute him over here. Let's see here. There you are. Hey, Ren. What's up? Yeah, you should be unmuted by now, though. So,
Boom.
All right, there you go.
Now
Hey,
I'm live. Can you hear
now?
me?
Yeah, I can hear
How
you.
do I look?
You look beautiful.
What's happened? Did I miss
Nothing.
anything?
No,
Did
just
Cook call
talking
back
to some of the guys. Huh?
Did Cook come back to continue one of his stories?
No, he did not. He did not. He did not. So, hey, why don't we, now that you're back, you've taken your break. I'm not. Live streaming live dot here at YouTube. You guys are awesome. Hey, let's come back with the second half of this show. I'm really interested to get into this mock draft, Ren.
Me too.
And do that. So
I can't wait to see where this goes.
Yeah, it's listen.
Oh, Lord.
But anyway, I'm gonna play a little bit of music to cue us in, because this is gonna help in editing for the podcast piece in just a few minutes. So with that, actually, you know what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do this one. I'm gonna do our regular intro stuff. So here we go. In 3, 2.
Touchdown Tampa Bay. You're listening to the Pewtercast.
Welcome back to the Pewtercast. This is the second half of our live stream. We've already talked to Mark Cook for like an hour, Ren. And for those of you guys that are still here with us, we're here. I think I'm going to call this the main event. No offense to Mark, but I think this is what most people are really here for. The mock draft. It's time to get into the mock draft. I've not done one of these yet this year. I don't know who's out there. So, Ren, you're going to have to help me out.
Oh, yeah.
For how we're going to do it. How you feeling about this this mock draft? This is something we've never done before here at the Pewtercast.
I've done it many times.
You have.
And I've done it live. Not this year yet, though.
Uh-huh.
I did it live a few times. Well, but we have never done this with the both of us. And you have definitely not done it, because we hinted about it a little bit at the beginning that mock draft season isn't your thing. You don't like doing mock drafts. Mm-hmm. And if, correct me if I'm wrong, but if I remember right, it's because they're always wrong.
Well, yeah, because even right now, right? I was just talking to the guys in the chat room during the break. Like, even right now doing a mock draft, like, the Bucs haven't been through free agency. Mm-hmm. Literally the only person they've re-signed is Tanner Hudson. Mm-hmm. We have no idea what the quarterback situation is going to be. So we don't even know what the state of the team is come the draft, right? And so, like, all of those things are factors into who you're going to draft and what you're going to do. Plus, you can never predict trades and what people are going to trade, So and the other side of it for me, and this is my own personal. I know people love the draft, and I'm not trying to poo-poo on all of that. For people who love the draft and they follow all the college guys and all that kind of stuff, and they're trying to say it could be this, it could go this way, it could do this. More power to you. It's just my own personal thing. It seems so futile, but because I understand so many people like it, I'm willing to give it a shot.
All right.
There you go.
So we're following your battle plan, right?
So we're going to go with my battle plan, which basically all I said in the battle plan was we will sign a quarterback, whether it's Jameis or someone else. So
or Brady or Bridgewater.
right. So
you
it's not a
allotted
rookie
like
quarterback.
27 million to that.
Right. About 27 million. It's not the point of that, and the way that'll affect this is that means I'm not depending on a rookie quarterback.
Okay.
For this year, right?
Okay. Where are your holes on your roster?
The running back is going to be a big one.
Okay.
I think
you have this written down.
Do what?
You have this written down.
I'm pulling this off of my memory because it was actually. I mean, I basically signed the entire defensive line and then the quarterback.
Right. Well, you should write down what you think your holes are as you're telling me them.
Oh, okay. Well,
so you can go back to your list.
Sure.
Like in the 3rd or 4th round.
Sure. But I mean,
back?
I think it's running back. I think safety is a big one. Wide receiver, because we need that wide receiver 3 spot.
Right.
Where I let Bouchard go.
Mm-hmm.
I do think quarterback is still a piece that we'd like to, and I want to talk about that. And Ren's giving me the timeout piece.
Nope.
Oh, the tackle, the offensive line.
Go.
Yeah. No, definitely offensive line. We have re-signed a bunch of defensive line people. You could still always use defensive line help.
Use some youth in there.
You know,
inject some youth.
Exactly. I'm not so much worried about the linebacker or the cornerback spot, but I mean, at this point, we're just saying every position on the team could use some help, which is true anywhere. You could always draft somebody in every spot. But now what I won't be doing is I'm not going to go like the first 3 rounds are all cornerbacks. Remember when that happened last year?
I do.
Everybody was like, "What's going on?"
2 and 3. Yeah, I didn't listen to myself. Like I kept doing mock drafts, and then even when I went to the Joe Bucks fans party, and I talked to Isbits and I recorded some sound beforehand with him. At the end of it, I was still recording. And I go, well, "Who's going to play?" Like we kept talking about guards and things like this, and who did we end up going first round last year? Oh my God, I can't remember.
Devin White.
Okay, yeah. So we knew like Devin White was going to be there, and then we were kind of like thinking day 2, day 3, and it didn't work out because they went, defensive backfield,
cornerback, safety, cornerback, safety. Yeah.
But at the end, I was like, well, who's going to play quarterback for this team? Because we had Carlton Davis who had a great year, we had Vernon Hargraves, and then we had Ryan Smith. Like we didn't have a slot guy. MJ Stewart was terrible.
Right.
And instead of thinking like, hey, maybe they were going to draft some of these guys, I just kept stuck too true to my plan. They're like, nope, they need interior defensive lineman. They're getting a linebacker. We need, I don't even remember after that what I was talking about, but it wasn't corner or safety.
There you go. Well, so with that, Ren, we'll dig into this. For those of you who are joining us live on YouTube, I'm going to put up the mock draft machine here in front of us. Hopefully you guys can read it because I understand I mean, I'm doing a screen share with it. So, hopefully you guys do it. And for those of you listening to the audio feed of the podcast later on, we'll try to describe this and keep this moving just as best we can. I also know that our friend David Harrison from the Locked On Bucks podcast, he's listening live right now, and he has promised me he is grading my draft. So we'll see. We'll see where he thinks this comes out at the very end. But Ren, why don't we go ahead and dive into it? What do you say?
I am ready.
All right. Let's see here. Let's pull this up and we'll make that go up. So here we are with the TDN live stream or the what do they call this? The mock draft machine.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what they do? So I'm going to go ahead. We're going to select the Buccaneers because that's who we're drafting for. We're going to go with the predictive board. Ren, does that sound good to you? I guess.
What's the other one?
It's their player rankings.
Predictive board.
You think Yeah, this is how the machine's going to draft everybody else, right?
Right.
We'll put this up for 7 rounds, and let's go draft pick speed fast.
Okay.
Is that going to be? I mean, because that's going to get everybody else through fast, right?
Yep.
Okay. I can take as much time as I need, right?
You got it on manual, right?
I do have it on manual, yes, sir.
Yep, that's it.
All right, let's start it. So here we go. We are picking number 14. Joe Burrow is gone. All right, now if I honestly, this is what I wanted to do was just say trade the entire thing and go get Joe Burrow and let's call it done.
I believe that.
But I don't think we could do that. All right. So I'm up here at number 4. And so I guess the question really comes is where do we go first, Ren?
Right.
And I guess that's always the big question. Some of these people, Kinlaw is off the board. Kazon is off the board, who's a name I keep seeing. Derek Brown, obviously Tua and Joe Burrow are both off the board.
Where
But
do you think the biggest need is?
that's well, see, and Ren, this becomes that issue, right? Where you have it's that amalgam we talk about, right? Like
EPA meeting up with team need.
exactly.
Right.
So, this is a little bit of where I don't know all these guys because, like, I was just talking to the chat room, kind of during the break a little bit. Like, I'm not a fan of going running back in the first round of the draft,
Okay, then don't do
generally
it.
speaking. But if there's like a Saquon Barkley type person out there, I think that's a big enough need. We could fill that need if that's a person. So I ask you, like, is there anybody that's like they're so outshining everything else, regardless of their position? This is kind of a player that you should take.
Well, I can't see yours.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of going off mine.
Okay.
My biggest need is tackle, and I think this is how the draft's going to go.
Okay.
Okay, as long as one of the big four are there, which is Andrew Thomas,
Okay.
Jedrick Wills, Mekhi Becton,
Uh-huh.
and Tristan Wirfs.
Okay.
Now that's where I don't think there's a Saquon Barkley. Like, there's conversations that Jonathan Stewart out of Stanford, or excuse me, out of Wisconsin. But then there's Cam Akers, who might be just as good because his offensive line wasn't as well. And then you've got the kid out of Clemson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, CH3, who will be known from now on, might be the best all-around back because of his pass protection and blitz pickup, which is a huge thing. So they're all sort of lumped together. I'm not even talking about Swift out of Georgia, who a lot of people have as number one.
Right.
But the general consensus is, and on the mock draft machine, offensive tackle is the Bucs' biggest need.
Right.
I think it's the Bucs' biggest need. Everyone thinks it's the Bucs' biggest need. If one of those four tackles are there, then that would be the selection I would go with. And it doesn't. Now, if you have more than one, then we can have a discussion.
Okay. Well, I do have more than one. I've got and I'll put it up here because I've got Mekhi Becton. I've got Jedrick Willis, and I've got Andrew Thompson. That's 3 out of the top 4.
Really? They're all still available for you?
They're all still available. And Tristan Wirfs is the only one who's been taken at number 10 with the Browns.
Okay. Well, I will give you what's so great about this mock draft machine that you don't know, and everyone else that's watching and listening already does. You can click on the person and they'll give them a breakdown. And usually there's 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 different scouting reports on them from all the scouts there. Yep, there you go.
Yep.
Now, the quick way to do it is go all the way down to the bottom, and it'll give you a summary.
Of their thing?
You don't have to go through, hey, this is what they are in functional strength. Yeah, so go ahead and click on somebody.
Right. I've got Becton pulled up here.
Okay. And then slide it all the way down. All right. Sorry, I'm watching on my phone and I'm way behind.
Oh, because of the delay.
Yeah, delay. Yeah. Sorry. So I clicked back to what we were watching. So right there at the bottom. Now, Wilkes might be the best all-around tackle. Becton's an absolute monster. He's like 350 and he ran like a 5.11.
Okay.
So he was the guy that sort of came out of nowhere. It was the big three. It was this Thomas guy, Wirfs, and Wilkes. And it's kind of just, what you wanted. To be honest, it's your first draft. We're not going to get, too into it. Any one of those three, I think no one's going to yell at you about it.
Great. I'm still, and this is total fanboy of me right now.
Yeah,
I'm still real high on the whole Vita Vea thing. You remember when we drafted Vita Vea and everybody, or not everybody, like Warren Sapp was all like, "Hey, you can't draft a big fat guy and have him come play in Tampa," and then
you can't play defensive line at 350 pounds,
right? And turns out like he can, right? So there's a piece of me like as I'm reading this and I'm looking at is it Becton's here? You were just telling me like he's just huge and he's
a monster. He's an absolute monster. Like all these guys. Here's the thing: what's weird about this year's draft? All these guys in almost any other year would be tackle number 1.
Right.
They would be the guy that they're talking about. There just happens to be 4 of them in
Right.
this year's draft.
Right.
Now, he also, I don't know where you have edge and interior defensive line, which also you're looking at. I know.
Yeah, I'm not. Given the fact that in my battle plan we have re-signed JPP, we've re-signed Shaq, we've got Anthony Nelson still there, and I think we brought back Carl Nassib.
You did, yeah.
I'm okay on edge, and we retained our starting interior line anyway between Ndamukong and Golston and Vita Vea. So that's not ranking there, and I don't see edge or interior linemen popping up there. But I kind of like this idea. Like what I'm reading here with these guys is really where it talks about how Mekhi Becton is this he's this brawler. He's just mean. Like I like that. I want to see that, especially when you combine that with like a Ryan Jensen and what we hear coming out of like Ali Marpet and some of those guys. Like I like that. So I think I want to go with this Becton guy.
All right. That's everyone's favorite.
Okay.
Pretty much.
Great. So I'm going to draft him.
All right.
I'm going to draft him. Let's see what happens with the rest of the draft. So there we go. And a whole bunch of other people are going, and it's finding. So those of you guys in the chat room, let me know, what do you think? Becton is the guy. And I did see that Becton was he was also projected as a possible left tackle, which is a very interesting idea considering that we've got Donovan Smith. He's guaranteed this one more year, but then after this, we could either jettison him or we can sign him again and keep him, or potentially moving this guy over if he works out to be that.
And if Becton turns into this, all be all type of player, just throw Donovan Smith over the other side this year.
Right.
Who's better? It's this thing where it's like, oh, you can't flip him over because what's that famous quote? You might not know. Somebody said it's like switching sides offensive line is trying to learn to wipe your butt with your opposite hand, after you've been doing it the other way your whole life.
Right.
Okay, yeah, it's awkward the first time you do it.
Yeah, right. Here's the thing though. I had a conversation 2 years ago with Ali Marpet about that very situation. Remember when he went from right guard to center to left guard?
Yep.
And I had that conversation with him, and he's like, it's just about how you turn your hips. And it takes you a little bit of time to get used to it
first.
But then you get used to it.
Yeah.
And you can be flexible with it. Like that's all he said. So
it's one of those arguments that people come up with because they don't want you to do it.
Exactly.
And I want to move Donovan Smith. Oh, you can't do that because they don't want you to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So I am up here. Let's put this back up for everybody to see. It looks like Becton's getting some love for me out of the chat room over there. So thank you guys for that. So now I'm over here. OT is off the board. I still could use. I've seen some people say that we need to draft interior offensive line, like a guard or something of that nature. I'm not. I'm still okay to ride with Kappa for right now.
Right. I also think it's a little early in the draft to be going into your offensive line.
Okay, that's fair. I was gonna say, if it's one of those things where, like we talked about a second ago, of if there's somebody who's just shining still out there right now, but without that, I'm really
who is your top interior? I can't read it.
You can't read it. Okay. Here.
Who is your top interior? Just name the top 3.
Let's hear. Austin Jackson is still out as a tackle. Interior defensive. I've hit the button 3 times.
So you've gone too far. Yeah, you're too far.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So currently we're looking. I have said quarterback is still a position.
Look at your top 10 guys. Okay.
Right.
This is very rudimentary, but a great way to look at your top 10 guys.
Yep.
And then go, hey, this is a position that I feel I need to fill.
All right, I got a running back, Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yeah, CH3 right? That's what I thought to do.
Yeah.
He's out of LSU. He's a smaller guy, runs with good balance, he just does everything well. Runs with good power. But maybe out of the top 5, I didn't mention Dobbins out of Ohio State. Sorry, David. But he might be the most best all around back now. But with Cam Akers maybe still out there, click onto your running back, go to position, and click at the running back, and see who's still on the board. At the top. At the top.
Right here.
No, a little lower.
Right
where
here.
it says POS.
Right
there you go.
There we go.
Now there's all your running backs.
Cam Akers is there. Yeah.
And who else is there?
Eno Benjamin and Zach Moss.
Okay. Now, after Akers and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, it is a drop-off. A lot of people like Zach Moss. Who's under Zach Moss?
Antonio Gibson.
Okay. A lot of people like him, but he's more of a third down back receiver. He's like a Charles Sims. He ran routes like a wide receiver. Yeah. So if you want to go running back, you're looking at Edwards-Helaire or Cam Akers probably here. But then you might be able to get him in the third if you go back to all, hit the position thing and go all.
Yep. Oh, there it is. Yep.
There you go. Now you have is there a safety there you like?
Okay,
Or is there a wide receiver there you like?
Well, let me ask you this. We talked about the wide receiver spot and this being a great wide receiver group.
Right.
There are a couple guys, Jalen Rieger, KJ Hamler, even Donovan Peoples-Jones, Brandon Ayuk. Ayuk. Are these guys,
These are all guys that are considered they're all sort of lumped together.
Yeah.
There's 3 or 4, which are all gone by now, by the way. And then there's just what you like. What are you looking for? So that's when you get to go over and click on their name and sort of look at what they do best. If you're looking for a guy that plays mostly slot, but can also play outside, but if he plays, so basically what you're looking for, if you're going to be running a Bruce Arians offense, is you need a wide receiver that can block.
Right.
And if you can find one that can block and they love blocking and they also have track speed, and they don't have red flags as in drop a lot of passes.
Right.
Not aggressive. It won't stick their nose in there, has a small catch radius. They don't have those red flags. That's the kind of wide receiver you're looking at. But you said it's such a deep class. I don't think second round wide receiver is the place to go.
All right. I got 2 people I want to ask, and I'm going to make my decision.
Sure.
I'm real close on this. All right. The first one is an edge, a defensive lineman.
I
know we talked about having JPP. I know we talked about having Shaq Bear. JPP is a 1 or 2 year guy. We did get Anthony Nelson. He's still kind of undecided. He was injured a lot last year. You still need depth in that area over there
some
as
youth
well.
Too.
So Terrell Lewis
at Alabama
is a guy. He's the only edge rusher that I see. Curtis Weaver is way down the list for me as the next edge rusher.
Boise State, I believe.
Is this a guy that maybe I should look at here in the second round as an edge rusher? Given we have the starting spots filled, but we still could fill that in. And when was the last time we actually drafted an edge rusher that wasn't Noah Spence that worked out?
Maybe Anthony Nelson.
It's way too early to tell, right?
Yeah. Well,
but before him, I mean,
I hear you. Here's my thinking. You do whatever you want, but here's my thinking. It's a top 40 pick in the draft. I'm getting a starter.
Fair. Okay.
I'm getting a starter. Yes, you need some youth. Yes, you need to inject in here. But if you have, like you said, it's totally different. The free agency hasn't started. As your battle plan stands, you have your starters and most of your backups on your offensive line. The only guy you didn't sign back was Bo Allen.
Right. Okay. So last question then I have for you.
Sure. Who's the other guy?
Cornerback, AJ Terrell. Is this the guy who's going to come in as a starter and replace a Carlton Davis or an SMB, or with knowing Jamel Dean is waiting right there in the wings?
I don't know. I haven't done a lot of cornerback looking because I don't think they're going to address it till at least day 3, So I don't really know a lot about that guy. I don't mind the idea of bringing in a veteran or drafting a guy because, sort of they talked about this on the recently released Pewter Nation podcast, sort of banking on that all those 3 guys are going to stay on that upward arc. and
Right.
not get injured. Because behind them, it's like Ryan Smith.
Right.
I
Which
don't
I'm letting
know.
walk.
Yeah, yeah. So
Right.
it's even less with you because I know
Right.
you didn't sign a cornerback in free agency. So,
Right.
but they played so well at the end of the season. For me, it wouldn't be worth it. For
Okay.
me, I'd be looking interior defensive line,
Yep.
edge, or running back. That's where I would be
Okay.
looking.
I'm looking at running back then.
All right.
Because it would then be between this Akers and this Edwards-Helaire guy.
Akers
So
was
yeah.
one of the highest recruited athletes out of high school, period. Not a running
Okay.
back position, like period. He might have been number one.
All
He
right.
got to Florida State, had a very good freshman year. Then, like, the ceiling fell. Ohio State, Florida State has. You can make the argument they have the worst offensive line in the nation for D1 schools. Like, it's that bad. Definitely for, what do they call it? The Big Six conferences.
Right.
Definitely in the conversation, probably wins it. So what Cam Akers having to do to move around and getting, lots of losing yardage, basically think about Peyton Barber 2 years ago. Every time he got
Right.
the ball, there's a guy in his face and he's 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage. That's what has happened to Cam Akers the past 2 years. So I think Cam Akers is more explosive,
Right.
but you have a higher floor with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And I don't think you can go wrong with either, to be honest with you.
All right. I'm going to go with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Mostly because as I'm reading these
you go.
these reports on them, they talk about Cam Akers as somebody who's going to need some time to develop. You got to be patient with him. I was patient with Ronald Jones.
Who are you reading?
Mostly Sigma when I go to him, but also Stolak and Crab. I mean, I'm kind of filtering through them all a little bit.
I hope Trevor doesn't hear this. Don't read Trevor's. I'm serious.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, between you and I and 98% of the people in the world, Trevor knows more about the draft.
Sure.
On that site,
yeah,
he's not the guy.
Okay, fair enough. I go to him because I know him. That's all.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Like I personally know Trevor. So
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, but still, I'm going to go with this Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and I'm going to draft him. So away the thing goes. We'll put that up so everybody can watch.
Plus, you also have to look, and this is just for future because this is just for fun. At the very bottom, it shows you the last time it was updated. So a lot of these, I guess comps or evals, I guess, were done before the season started.
All right. Let's see here. What is it saying? I get a B from David Harrison on picking Edwards.
All right.
There. So
well, David Harrison can't talk because I remember their draft last year.
All right.
So mad.
It is time. It is pick number 76. It still tells me I need a quarterback, an interior defensive line, an interior offensive line, an edge rusher, cornerback, safety, tight end, linebacker.
Sure.
Wow, I've got a thing here. Talk to me about Jacob Eason as a quarterback because I am still looking at that position quite heavily.
Was at the University of Georgia,
Washington.
Thank you. He was at the University of Georgia. Jake Fromm he got hurt. Jake Fromm took a starting job and made him transfer to Washington.
Gotcha.
He is the prototypical BA quarterback, big kid, huge arm.
Right.
But there are rumblings of maturity issues.
Okay.
And I think that's really about it. Kind of like a nonchalant attitude, I guess. Now that's I don't know. But if you're looking to put a guy, if you're looking at Bruce Arians sort of like 2, 3, 4 years down the road, say Jameis is gone, and you got Tom Brady, you need somebody in 2 years. Easton's he's a great pick.
Right.
Especially in the third. A lot of people are having the Bucs take him in the second.
Okay. I'm kind of liking this one here, but I also have to look at it. Jalen Hurts, which is a name that I'm somewhat familiar with anyway.
Right.
Coming out of Oklahoma as a quarterback as well.
Rock solid character.
Yeah.
Always been a winner.
Yeah.
I think he throws the ball better than people give him credit for because basically just ran the ball at Alabama. Then he transferred when Tua took over. He went to Oklahoma, brought them to a Final Four, if you'll let me get away with that in college football, and threw the ball a lot. But people are saying that it's sort of the offense there, since it just produced Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray, and now Jalen Hurts. So as far as character issues and work ethic and being a leader and all that type of stuff, rock solid. But as far as like who has more talent, like talent as an NFL prototypical pocket passer, it's Eason.
All right, and then let's compare him to Jake Fromm, the guy you said that took his job in Georgia.
Yeah, I like Jake Fromm. The knock on him is everyone says that he doesn't throw the ball down the field deep, and you can't do that in a Bruce Arians offense. I think it's a load of malarkey.
Right.
He doesn't have the arm strength of Eason.
Okay.
But what I always kind of go back to is this guy came in as a true freshman, made Eason transfer, and then the guy that started last year for Ohio State was also at Georgia, and he transferred.
Gotcha.
So he made two guys transfer.
Right. He took their jobs.
Right. So I would say he's like right in the middle between the two.
Right.
Like he doesn't have the leadership qualities or sort of like the rock solid, like, Jalen Hurts is everything you want in your quarterback except for physical traits. Jacob Eason is everything you want in your quarterback if you're just looking at physical traits, and Fromm is if they had a baby.
Okay, fair enough. Talk to me about, I want to switch positions on you here.
Sure.
I've got Kyle Duggar and Terrell Burris, both as safeties.
I don't know a lot about Terrell Burris. Is that where does he go to school?
Utah.
Okay. Kyle Duggar is the small school wonder of this draft.
Okay.
Like where did he go to? It's like he went to, God, I don't even know.
Lenoir Rhine.
Yeah, it's like I think somewhere in Carolina or something.
Right.
Just dominated, but then went to the Senior Bowl, held his own like an Ali Marpet, Alex Kappa. Went to the combine, tested, matched his tape. So it's he's sort of like the Cinderella feel-good story. There's another guy named Jeremy Chin who went to Illinois State, I want to say.
Okay.
Who I like better as a small school prospect at safety. He actually did better numbers at combine than Duggar.
He got picked number 70 by the Dolphins in this draft.
He's gone.
Yeah.
He's gone. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So at safety, I think Duggar's a good pick for you here. Everybody will know who he is. Everyone will think it's a smart pick. And
is he a guy who's going to replace like Edwards? Because I mean, Edwards.
I don't know what he's going to do.
I
haven't watched any tape on him.
Sure.
Okay. You're going to have to read the evals about that because his level of competition was zero. It's not like he played at Connecticut and then, you can go back to 2018 where, look, they played Penn State, or look, you can see him up against, Ohio State, or, you can go back to this year and go, okay, they played a bunch of nobodies. They played USF, they played, UCF, they played, but they're out of conference schedule. You're going to find a receiving core where you can put him up against. But this guy was in, playing Little Mary Sister of the Blind. So he's supposed to dominate, and his combine matched his tape. And I don't know. People like him.
Right.
I haven't looked a lot into the safety because I'm not on the safety train right now.
Right.
I mean, I thought basically Jason Light and Bruce Arians said at the combine that like our safeties are good. Like even without Justin Evans, they still got Dakota Dixon. Like I just don't think they're going to draft one, especially day 2.
Right.
But if you think it's a need, basically you have to decide what you need is a free safety. You need a guy that can run. You can need Justin Evans. You need a guy that can run sideline to sideline. And match speed with deep guys. We got guys that can come down in the box and make tackles.
Right. The Jordan Whitehead kind of guy.
Right.
I get that. And my thought process behind that is because look, I'm not placing any faith whatsoever in Justin Evans.
Okay.
And him ever coming back. I'm just not. Mike Edwards. I mean, he's a Kentucky guy. I'm a Kentucky guy, but he vastly underwhelmed me last year.
Right.
Whenever Whitehead got hurt.
And the other
And-
3 improved, and Adams ended up taking his job.
Right. And Dakota Dixon, who I understand they're very, very high on, he was undrafted, right?
Yeah, and he had about 3 practices.
Right. So I just don't have enough there. But it's going to be hard for me to pass up this at a quarterback spot because I'm thinking in that realm right now.
Right. It's also
now,
a good spot to look for wide receiver and inject some.
the wide receiver spot. There's
and
not
also
any.
Don't forget about injecting some of that youth on that defensive line.
Well, that was going to be the next thing I asked before I make my decision.
Sure.
I don't have any wide receiver. Oh, there's a wide receiver. Vaughn Jefferson out of Florida is the
Van
first one who
Jefferson.
pops up. Van Jefferson. And then
Go
KJ
to,
Hill.
Right. Go to click on wide receiver, the
Yeah.
position
Oh,
thing.
here.
Make it all
Yeah.
wide receiver. And tell me
Yeah.
like your top 5.
There's Hodgkins,
Uh-huh.
Cephas, Gandy Golden, and
Uh-huh.
wait a minute. I'm sorry. Jefferson Hill, Brian Edwards, and Courtney Davis.
Okay. I'm not really sure who half those guys are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but anyway, the ones I did want to ask you about though is
Sure,
the edge
sorry.
guys, because we're talking. You were just kind of saying look for some youth along the that the 2 edge guys I have up here are Jonathan Greenard and Daryl Taylor.
Greenard's the one out of Florida.
Greenard is out of Florida. Yes, that's right.
And the other kid, what do you say, is out of Tennessee?
Yep.
Wow, we should tweet at Evan Winter real quick. Give me the final analysis. What Krabs says about the kid from Tennessee.
From Tennessee, I can do that for you. He says he projects as a potential base starter in a 4-3 or a 3-4.
Okay.
He's in possession of an adequate anchor and strong run fits as a defender. But his consistent pressure off the edge is a bit hit or miss.
Okay.
He doesn't have the elite length or show mental processing to consistently diminish the edge.
Okay. So
That's
he's we have him. He's Anthony Nelson.
Right. Let's see here. And then yeah, I'm going to go with this Greenard guy. That's where I'm going to go.
All right.
Over quarterback.
Oh, really? All right. You're going to hope one of those 3 falls to you next round?
I am.
This is what makes it
exactly
fun.
what I'm thinking. Yeah.
This is what makes it fun.
Yeah, that's
were both those running backs gone? You took Hilaire, but did Cam Akers go?
Yes, Cam Akers he just went 2 picks before this one. He almost made it all the way down. He went at 74. Right here. All right. So all right. So I'm going to draft. I'm drafting my edge guy. Jonathan Greenard is my edge guy.
And we're just hoping that the quarterback that one of those quarterbacks falls through.
Yeah, I'm going to push because I really want quarterback. Because Jake Fromm just left. Jalen Hurts is gone.
I
got Anthony Gordon still up there.
Yeah, you can wait.
Come on. Do what?
You can wait on Gordon.
Yeah, come on. James Morgan, Nate Stanley. All right, hey, it's my turn. I'm back at it.
David gave you C for Gennard.
Did he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know much about him.
Yeah.
It's not a very good edge class. You got to kind of get it early, or like kind of find diamonds in the rough.
All right, there you go. All right, so there's quarterback. Now I'm thinking at this point, I'm thinking quarterback or I'm thinking wide receiver.
Sure.
In those 2. So let's talk about wide receivers. My top couple of wide receivers, I got Gabriel Davis, Colin Johnson, Tyler Johnson, and Michael Pittman Jr. Right. There's a name I recognize.
Yep. Keep going. Give me the schools.
Let's hear UCF, Texas, Minnesota, USC, Texas, Oregon State, Wisconsin.
Who's the second Texas guy?
Second Texas is Devin DuVernay.
Okay. Click on him and look at his, thing at the bottom. He might be he's one of those guys that I like, that speed, toughness.
Potential slot receiver at the pro level, but he's going to need to operate in a WCO offense, West Coast offense. He puts WCO offense. So he just said West Coast offense.
Probably.
Predicated on the run after the catch.
I think he can help in the return game too. But this is where it gets fun. This is where, I know that I've looked that guy up. That's why you kind of know what he's doing. But you should take a second and look at a couple of those other wide receivers.
Yeah, I'm looking at Pittman Jr. right now. Says he has huge mitts. He has starting potential in the NFL.
Are you really going to pass up on Eason in the what are we in the fourth?
Eason's not there.
Oh, Eason left too. Who's your top QB?
Anthony Gordon. Anthony Gordon.
Washington State.
Yep.
Yeah, you can wait on him. You're probably down to either Gordon or my other guy is the kid out of FIU or
James
FAU.
Morgan.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's those two. Wow, look, you've done a few of these, haven't you, there, Ren?
I don't do them.
Yeah.
I don't publish all the ones that I do, but what I do is I go through and sort of, where picks are falling. Like, okay, if I don't take quarterback till day 3, what are my options? And I saw that Gordon, or not Gordon, who's the FIU kid?
Morgan.
I saw him at the Shrine game for 3 days.
Yeah. I like this summary, and this alone almost sells me. It says he's got some A+ intangibles, plus a promising level of arm talent and an eye for the big throw.
Yeah.
Which
he was
sounds
easily
like
he's another Bruce Arians prototypical, but like the next tier down.
Right.
He
sounds like a Bruce Arians kind of guy.
Yeah. But you can wait for him.
Yeah. I think if I could go back and redo this, I might get Eason in the 3rd as opposed to the.
But you can't, Brent.
But I can't now, right? I know. So at this point, I didn't take Rashard Perriman because I was going to pick somebody up in the draft here. And
what's safety looking like?
That's a good question. Go. Still got Brandon Jones out of Texas available, and nobody else for a while. Richie Gant out of UCF. Got a cornerback. Oh, interior offensive line. This might be a good spot for that. Damian Lewis. Is this a guy who can replace an Alex Kappa?
Who did he play for?
LSU.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think Ledger.
Is he an upgrade? Is he an upgrade over Kappa?
I think Ledger drafted him in his battle plan and put him in front of Kappa.
I think you're right. I think I saw that. So I'm always a trenches guy. I like the trenches.
That's right.
But we do have Kappa. We don't have a 3rd wide receiver in my group yet.
Yeah.
That's a good question. Hey, chat room, help me out. What do you guys think?
Nope, don't help him.
Hurts in the 3rd. David Harrison told me he's actually taking Hurts in the 3rd. All right. Wide receiver. Let's look at these. I got Gabriel Davis, Colin Johnson, and Tyler Johnson. And Michael, oh yeah, we were just talking about these guys.
Tyler Johnson out of Minnesota. He put up big numbers. He's I guess he's more of a Mike Evans, Chris Godwin type, as he's not a speedster.
Right. We need the speedster, right? That would be what this role is.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, if you have Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and another Chris Godwin on the field, are you going to be like, you still got Scotty Miller where you can run him in and out.
Right. That's true. That's true.
But the perfect guy would be the perfect guy is Mims out of Baylor. But when I first started doing this, you get him the 7th. Now you can't. Now he's like going in the 2nd. Because people found out about him, Denzel Mims.
Right.
But I haven't looked at all the receivers either.
I'm going with this Damian Lewis guy.
Who's that?
The offensive line.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'm taking him. Boom. There we go. And away it goes. So getting some trenches work in this particular draft, Ren. I've got an offensive tackle. I've got an edge. I've got an interior offensive lineman.
And a running back.
And a running back. Yeah. So where am I now? Is this the 5th round or is this my comp pick in the 4th round?
I don't know.
I think this is my comp pick in the 4th round now.
What to say at the top? Should have a round.
Yeah, round 4. Yeah, round 4. Round 4. All right, this is where I'm looking for a wide receiver. Have to have a wide receiver. Tyler Johnson is still there. You liked him just a minute ago. Also, Colin Johnson is still there.
David Harrison gave you a B for Damian Lewis in the 4th.
All right.
If he went to Ohio State, it would have been an A+, but whatever.
Let's see here. Yeah, Colin and then Tyler. I don't. They're both named Johnson. See, this is where me not knowing them very well
Yeah.
is an issue, and I don't want to sit here on the podcast read
No, don't.
all the articles, but
Well, remember you got safety.
uh-huh.
You're looking for don't necessarily just get pigeonholed into wide receiver right here. You know, check and see if your quarterback that the Morgan guy's still there. He should be.
No.
Someone took him?
I think so. Hold on. I can look. Oh, Morgan's there.
Okay.
I did like him. I liked him when I read his stuff.
Yeah, but you need your third wide receiver.
But I do need that third. You just told me not to look at wide receiver.
No, I said don't just look at wide
I
receiver.
know.
Can't pigeonhole your plus. You've been banging for a safety.
Can Morgan wait one more round? Do you think?
That is the question. Probably. You could probably get Morgan in the 6th.
You think so?
I would. In the 5th. If you want to go for him, you probably can. I would think you could.
I'm going for this Colin Johnson guy. I want to get my wide receiver here.
What school you go to?
Texas.
Okay. I don't know anything about him.
All right, here we go. Boom. There goes a bunch of people. I'm watching for Morgan before we get up here. Oh no. No.
Did he go?
Not yet. Ah. So there. Hey, I got Michael Pittman Jr. still up there.
There you go.
You said Morgan could probably go in the 6th round, right?
Yeah.
There you go. I'm waiting on David Harrison's grade on that last pick.
Remind him who you took. I even forgot.
Colin Johnson? What's his name?
No, something Collins. Wide receiver,
Collins?
Texas.
Yeah. It was Colin something. Anyway.
You don't even know.
I don't.
I'm just picking schools by this time.
All right. Yeah. Let's see here. What are we looking at?
So you got
safety.
the 5th. You only got
safety.
You only got 2 picks left now. We have no 7th.
That is true. Let's talk about safety. I got J.R. Reed and Javelin Gildry out of Georgia and Utah. Any thoughts on those guys? Or Antoine Brooks Jr.?
Nope.
All right.
Can't help you there, buddy. I haven't looked at safety a lot.
Right.
I kind of know the top guys and then the 2 small school guys, and that's sort of it.
Antoine Brooks projects as a nickel
sub
sub-package defector. Do what now?
I was talking to David. You should have taken Tyler Johnson. Kid out of Minnesota.
Okay.
It's okay. It's your first time. You're not being graded.
That's what my wife said.
Judged, but not graded.
That's also what my wife said.
And actually, you are being graded because
yes, I am.
And I'm judging you. So
yes. All right.
What are we looking at?
I'm looking at the safety spot. There's also an interior defensive lineman here, Bravion Roy, out of Baylor.
Yeah.
Why
don't you take your quarterback?
Yeah, I was thinking that. I like it. Let's see who's back. Hey, Morgan's here. All right, I'll do it. We'll get this out. There's a guy one more after this. I took Morgan. James Morgan, David. He's my guy. James Morgan. And hey, I forgot to put this up. Sorry, guys. It's running. James Morgan, definitely judged and held against me forever, David says.
Yes, well.
Yes.
That's fair. Because I'm going to do the same for him.
There's not that many.
That disaster last year. So embarrassing.
All right. On the top of the board here, this is our final pick of this.
Oh, he gave you a
draft.
B. Congratulations.
All right, there we go.
All right.
The final, just the positions that they have up are wide receiver, safety, running back, safety, running back, edge, interior defensive line, wide receiver. This is that spot where if the guy makes the team, you'll be a little bit surprised.
Well, this is where you want to start going specialty. So when you look at running backs, you want to look at like a third down guy.
Right.
You want to look at a guy that's high up picking up the blitz and catching passes. Like that's what you're looking for.
Right.
Wide receiver, you might be looking for speed and somebody who can help you in return game. Safety, I really don't know. I haven't looked. I don't. They need a free safety, but I don't know if one, is going to start in the 6th round. You know, I just don't know him well enough. Is there's this guy that keeps slipping that I like.
Mhm.
So that's kind of where you're at. Interior defensive line, what you're looking for is either somebody who's immovable and that's all they do,
Uh-huh.
or they penetrate and that's all they do. And they have to be
Mhm.
coached up on the finer things. Or this is where Jason Light likes to take a guy with red flags.
Yep.
Injuries like Sitchy, you know,
Right.
you
Right.
know, he had like 2 torn ACLs, you know, oh, he would have been a third rounder or whatever. Beckwith, you know,
Mhm.
he was coming off a torn knee before, you know, he just tore his ankle off the bottom of his foot. Uh, so players like that, or guys that have discipline player problems, you know, there's a linebacker out of Mississippi State, last name Gay, who just had an awesome combine, but he punched like his quarterback in the face last year.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a guy from Miami who's an edge. I can't remember his name right now. I know it if I saw it, but
Mhm.
like he criticized the outgoing coaching staff on social media and got suspended for a while. You
Oh,
know,
wow.
stuff like so. Those are the type. This is a diamond in the rough sort of thing that you're looking. You're looking for like,
Right.
yeah, like Dave said, versatility and special teams. This is your Aladdin pick.
Mhm.
It doesn't really matter where he plays. You're
Right.
just sort of you're building depth, and maybe he can turn into a starter. You know, he'll get snaps on the field as a special teamer. Maybe he's a return specialist.
Mhm.
In a couple of years, he could push for a starting spot.
So I'm looking at a guy right now, and I'm
Hmm.
going to put this up on the screen for those that are
Sure.
watching the live stream here. Um, I'm looking at this guy, Muhammad Berry,
Uh huh.
who's a linebacker out of Nebraska, right?
Hmm.
And if we think about this in terms of where you're looking for your specialist, and in
Right.
my head, that even goes to special teamer, right?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
A guy that you can do some stuff with. Um,
What was it? Darius
and
Glanton.
right. And I like this set. It talks about how he has excellent burst from sideline to sideline. And he makes plays at all levels of the field. He has impressive speed, right? This is
Hmm.
something we like in our special teams guys, right?
And
He
linebackers. Yeah.
right, exactly. And you talk about that with linebackers run all the time. Linebackers are just really super athletic, unskilled people. Like,
Well, they're too slow to cover wide receivers, and they're too
uh-huh.
small to beat a tackle or a guard.
Right, right. But they're super athletic and can
Yeah,
run all
but
over the
they
place.
run like they run like the wind. They're the best athletes on the field
Right,
defensively.
right. But it talks about how he can have trouble finishing the tackle and narrowing the radius. But that kind of stuff to me is stuff that I feel like can be coached out of him. It also
Right.
says right here, I love this. He's a physical SOB, which is
There
the
you go.
kind of guy that I think Bruce Arians likes a lot. Todd Bowles is going to like a lot and would fit more in here. It says he's more of a guesser than a processor. Hey, we just had one of those guys, and he just got a $58 million contract out in San Francisco.
You just signed a
So,
$58 million player in the sixth round, Brent.
I'm going to draft Muhammad Berry just because I
Okay.
like the write
We
up
need
on
some
him.
we need some linebacker depth, like you said, helps with special teams. There's
Yeah.
really, I mean, who says for sure that Minter is going to be there?
Uh huh.
So behind White and David, who's
Hmm.
there? Sitchy? I
Exactly.
mean, yeah, he's gonna break his forearm, playing ping pong or something.
Uh huh. He's a lesser talented Quan type. David Harrison says.
There you go.
So there we go. All right, and that's going to do it really for my draft. So to put this
Well,
back up there, do what
yeah,
now?
yeah. Put it back up there.
Yeah, hold on. There it
No.
goes. Now it's finalizing the draft. All right. So it's going to put it up there. Here, let me put this up there. We'll let everybody take a look at this and see what they think of it. Here is, let's see. I want to
Go-
do what? My picks. Is that
Yep.
the one I want to hit? Here we
There
go.
you go.
All right. So we got Mekhi Becton and the offensive tackle
Great pick.
spot
Will never be there.
will never be there. Okay. I don't know. You never know. Clyde Edwards-Helaire at running back.
Very solid
Come in
pick.
and fill that in because
Probably start.
I think those are probably the two biggest holes on our team as far as starting goes. After my battle plan, which will be 100% accurate, as
Of
Rick
course.
Stroud likes to say. Jonathan Grenard
Mm-hmm.
Greenard at
Mm-hmm.
edge out of Florida. I got Damian Lewis as an inside offensive lineman.
Nice pick there.
To upgrade over Kappa there. And still, Kappa's not a bad backup at that point. I mean, I liked Kappa. I really did. We didn't talk about him a ton last year, which is always good. But
yeah, let him battle it out. See who wins.
There you go. Colin Johnson at wide receiver to replace Brashad Perriman, and battle, I guess maybe even battle with Scotty. What's his name? Yeah, Scooty Miller. Got a quarterback in here. Last time we were drafted quarterback. That's
nice find there.
In a while. Yeah. And Muhammad Berry as a flyer, as a specialist there out there on that. So
Baby Quan.
Yeah. And David says that I should have taken Brooks Jr., who was available on my draft, but he doesn't think he'll be there anyway. And he gives me a C. So David, if you put it in there, give me an overall grade you think on that particular draft. And Ren, I'll give you a minute to comment on this draft as well.
For your first one, even though I was sort of walking you through it, but I wasn't walking you through players like you should take this guy, you should take that guy. You were making up yourself. I think you did good. I think my least favorite pick is probably Greenland. I think you kind of got stuck into like, I'm going to take an edge here.
Okay.
Or like maybe I should take a wide receiver, but I can get just Goodwin later. I think that was a little bit of a reach. I like the LSU interior line pick. The wide receiver, I'm with David. I would have went with Tyler Johnson out of Minnesota, but who knows? I mean, really, who knows? And then who did you take after that?
James Morgan at quarterback and the Muhammad Berry at linebacker.
I think James Morgan's a real nice pick there. Not having to waste, I shouldn't waste, but spend day 2 draft pick on somebody who's you hope doesn't see the field for 2 years. But he's there. So, and the linebacker, I don't really know anything about him. It's good, it's bad. So yeah, I'm giving you, you know what? I'm giving you B.
Okay.
I'm giving you a B. I want to say B plus, but I just can't forgive that Greenland pick.
Okay. No worries. David Harrison, our friend from Locked On Bucks. By the way, you guys make sure you're listening to Locked On Bucks podcast. He gives me an overall B minus. And he said his short draft on that is solid improvements to the offensive line, good running back to pair with Rojo, and says it adds wide receiver and QB depth with an upside and with time to develop. As you mentioned, to give him a couple years. And he said Grinnard was the biggest overdraft, and Colin Johnson likely won't make the roster, but Lewis was a steal in the 4th. And he said you can't hate a 6th round pick with athleticism, fire, and special teams ability. So our friends over at Cannon Fire podcast, I like when we have other podcasts coming in and joining us. Like we listen to theirs a lot of times. Cannon Fire, I'm guessing that's Rhett, not Evan. If I had to make a guess, I'm not sure. But whoever it is, with either one of you guys, hi. He says they're a really big fan of the Edwards-Helaire pick, the running back that we drafted. So
he's a running draft from
he's a running draft. There you go.
That you got in the back in the second round or second inning.
There we go. So, all right, Ren. Well, man, I think that's going to do it.
I think you did good. I think you did good. I mean, you got the positions that you wanted. As the more you do it, you'll kind of see like, if you're really well, but if you're really looking for an edge that you might have to take that, day 1, but then are you going to sacrifice the tackle? And the cool thing about this, this mock draft machine that, I haven't done, and I know you haven't done it because you could care less, is that for a low monthly fee or a lower, when you extrapolate it out, one-time fee, you can make trades. So you were sitting there in the 1st at 14 and you had Becton, Wills, and Thomas all on the board.
Right.
You could have traded down because you're like, wow, I could trade down 2 spots, guaranteed one of those, pick up an extra first rounder, and maybe get the edge that I know is not going to be in there in a second.
Right.
Or maybe get that running back that I really covet. Like I like Edwards-Helaire and I like Akers, but I'd rather have Dobbins or Swift or Stewart. Is it Stewart? Yeah, Jonathan Stewart. Yeah. Yeah, so that's what makes this all fun. And like I said, the more you do it, the more you would understand that, like, hey, I can't wait till the third to get an edge because the guy, the sort of 4 or 5 that I've picked out
Right.
are never there. So I
Right.
got to think different ways, and so that's what makes it fun about it. And learning
like
about the players, so you know what happens on draft day.
Uh-huh.
Like, not everyone's just like, hey, it's John Smith. You're
Right.
like, who? Oh, well, Dallas. They drafted John Smith.
Sure.
And the Eagles, they drafted John Smith. Like, these names mean nothing to you.
Mm-hmm. That's often how like I'm sitting at the draft and I'm hearing these people. I'm like, all right, cool, man. I guess.
Who's that?
Yeah.
Wide receiver.
That's always been my mode, especially here at the podcast, is instead of doing all this work ahead of the draft, and because here's what happens. People that do all this work, and God bless them, they learn all these names and all these people. We're going to get 7 of them.
Yeah.
That's it. You're going to learn hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people.
Maybe
we're going to get 7. Let me just wait till after we draft them. And then that's when I start learning about them.
Right.
Like it was after we drafted. I knew Mike Edwards a bit from watching Kentucky because I'm a big Kentucky guy, but I really went and watched his tape afterwards. It's when I really, went and looked at Devin White, so to speak.
Yeah.
Not so to speak. I really looked at Devin White for the first time after we drafted him. Even though that's what everybody had been saying that we were going to draft.
Yeah, and that makes perfect sense. I had that, I talked about Isbitz earlier in the pod. Like, I had that conversation with him at the draft party last year.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I don't want to look at 300 people because I talk about the Buccaneers.
Right.
Like, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I talk about the Buccaneers. So I could go on and on and on about how I like this safety out of Illinois State named Chen, and the Bucs don't draft him. Well, then I don't care about him anymore.
Exactly.
I just don't.
Right.
So
right.
Until free agency pops around in 4 years.
Yeah. So with that, Ren, we'll go ahead and wrap this up, man. We'll close this out. Hope you guys had fun. We'll put this out there, guys. Email us in. Let us know what you thought of the draft here tonight. It seems the consensus is Grenard was not the right pick in the third round, and
be brutal.
Yeah, just you tweet at us at the Pewtercast, or hit us up on Facebook, facebook.com/thepewtercast. Email us, thepewtercast@gmail.com. You guys can do that. You can find me at Brent Allen Live across all the social medias. Ren, they can find you.
Best place to find me. I was waiting. You usually have one more word. You usually say at, I think. Best place to find me is on Twitter at Ren Daxt, REN_DAXT. I'm always down to talk Buccaneers football, unless you want to talk about Jameis Winston.
There you go. And hey, Ren, by the way, David gives you an A+ for the coaching through this very much. Draft. So
yes, it's very easy being behind the scenes.
Yes. Well, I also would like to give a special thank you to everybody who has come out and hung out with us tonight for the live stream of this. People who sat with us for a full hour while we talked to Mark Cook. And yeah, right. Got in through that, and then also I think as we put this out there in the ether, Ren might split this up into two different episodes just because the content is so vastly different between the two. So we'll see how that goes in editing. And we'll make that happen. Hey, listen, guys, make sure you join us. You never know what we're coming up with. A lot of people are going to be stuck at home. A lot of people are going to be stuck not being able to go anywhere or do anything. So
have you been watching any of these streamers on Twitch playing Call of Duty Warzone?
I do not. I have zero interest in that kind of stuff. Okay. But I know you do. I know a lot of people do. Yeah. So yeah. But we'll contribute. Who knows, Ren? Maybe we'll fire up the old phone line and do our own call-in show here, particularly as the free agent period is upon us. Coming up here. This is Friday night. We're recording, coming up here on Monday. So you never really know what we're going to get into. So with that, Ren, that's going to do it for us for tonight. I want to say thanks to everybody out there. You guys are awesome. Until next time, go Bucks.